All right, so I'm going to give you a quick demonstration on how you can check your work when you're graphing with a TI-84 Plus. So you're always still going to want to be showing your work, but again, this is a great way to check it. So if I want to graph a quadratic function, I'm on page 5 of the notes that we had for this section on 8.3. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this y equals button. And the first thing I'm going to graph is just a basic quadratic function. So f of x equals x squared. Now remember, f of x is the same as y here, so that's why we chose y equals. So to get the x, I'm going to go right next to the alpha, that green alpha key, and hit it, and I get an x. To get it squared, I use the caret key, and then I hit the squared, and now I'm going to simply click graph. So there was a little line that was kind of buzzing up and down on the right-hand side. If your window isn't right, that line will just keep buzzing instead of giving you this nice graph. So what would I do then? Well, I'd look at my table of values. So this last key over here that says graph, above it, it says table in blue. So I hit second, table, and I can see the values of x and the values of y. So if we compare these to the chart that we had, I can double check. The value of -2 we said was 4, and right here it shows the value of -2 is 4. So I can look at my values of x and my values of y and make sure they're set appropriately in the window. Here's the window key, so I push that. I have mine set x values from -10 to +10 with a scale of 1, y from -10 to +10 with a scale of 1. So you can just adjust those as you need to. So let's go back to that graph, the graph of that quadratic function. And now I'm going to look at the next one. And remember, our next quadratic function we looked at was f of x equals -1/2 x squared. So we said because that coefficient of x squared was negative, that now it's going to open downward. And because the coefficient was that 1/2 is less than 1, we know that it should be wider. It should make it wider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter that. I'm going to leave y equals x squared in the first spot, and I'm going to add another graph. So I'm going to put it in parentheses to hold the fraction. -1 divided by 2. That's how I'm going to show -1/2. Close it. I'm going to enter my x squared. So x caret 2. And I'm going to graph. And I did something wrong. I'm going to have to go back to that negative sign. I use the subtraction. I've got to use the negative key. You can see it smaller. Otherwise, it'll give me an error. So there was my first graph. There's the graph of f of x equals -1/2 x squared. I can see that it's wider, and it also opens downward. So let's take a look. I can leave this one in if I want, both of them, and I can add in my next function, which is 2x squared minus 1, and it's going to show me all three graphs. I know that for this one, the coefficient of x squared is positive, so it should open upward. The coefficient is greater than 1, it's 2, so it's going to be narrower. And then because I subtracted 1, it's going to shift the vertex down 1. So let's see if that's what happens. There it is. It's narrower than y equals x squared. And I can see the vertex is not at the origin anymore. It moved down 1. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to take out this second graph. I just hit clear. And now it's just going to show me the two graphs so I can compare those more easily. Okay. And I'm going to show one more graph then. And so that last one we're going to show is, I'll go down to the fourth spot. I want y equals -x squared plus 2. So let's talk again about what we expect to happen. The coefficient of x squared is negative, so that means it's going to open down. I'm adding 2, so that means the vertex is going to shift up. Let's take a look. Okay, I got an error again. I often do this. What do I have to do? I'm going to hit clear. I'm going to go back to y equals, and sure enough, I use the negative, the subtraction instead of the negative sign. Do it again, and now it will graph it for me. And there's my third graph. The vertex is moved up 2, and it is opening downward. And that should do it.